So they just want to make babies. Why don't they just have husbands? They want to have babies so bad, just have husbands. That's how it works. You're supposed to get married and have babies, not just use the force to make babies. You're doing it wrong. You're making babies with extra steps.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Get that heteronormative cisgender bullcrap out of my face, Cider. How do you not like the most progressive turn Star Wars has ever taken? This is officially no longer for the chuds. We are now in the golden age of Star Wars, okay? I don't know where you're getting your information.
Look, before we really get into this, because we got to deep dive into this, can you pull up the article that I have here? I've done this once before here on this show, but I have to keep going back to this, because if you guys recall on my site, Society Reviews, I wrote this article back in 2018. So this is actually about 6.5 years ago. I wrote this, and I asked the question, is it already over for Disney Star Wars, right? And I just wanted to read just a little bit, because this is the mindset of how I was looking ahead at this 6.5 years ago versus what we're about to talk about tonight. This is going to be a perfect thing. So this is after the failure of The Last Jedi. It seems like since 6 weeks ago, the sky was the limit for Disney Star Wars. The hype train was off the charts, and everyone wanted to see the future of the franchise. Well, after a few weeks, it seems like the wheels are falling off of Disney's cash cow. I said this in 2018. I've already gone into my feelings about The Last Jedi. I stand by my statement, which I completely do, by the way. However, the box office performance of the film has a lot of people looking deeper into the franchise and wondering, is the party already over for Disney's Star Wars? The audience for The Last Jedi has turned their noses on the latest project, not making it arguably the most hated Star Wars film ever, but the box office numbers are a significant drop-off from The Force Awakens in 2015, nearly $700 million shortfall from that film, and then you go to, what was it, the Rise of the Skywalker, did even less than this film, so yeah, everyone can see the writing on the wall here, but yeah, a drop-off was very concerning at the time, especially considering the fact that the film pretty much bombed overseas, and the Chinese market, remember, they were pushing China very, very hard at this time period. But now I can't pretend like the movie hasn't flopped, with $1.3 billion worldwide is nothing to sneeze at. However, Star Wars is one of the most recognizable franchises in the world. People literally watch a film just because it has Star Wars in it with the title, and then that's how much it means to them. I believe, however, The Last Jedi has killed that nostalgia factor for many people. The memories of the original trilogy over and over again are dead, and then in many ways in one. If you look at the future of Star Wars, there isn't much excitement for any of the characters that they have established. The toys are not selling the way that they used to. You guys remember all those Rose Tico toys? They're still out there. The outlets are overstocked with expensive Star Wars collectibles. If Disney's plans to hook a new generation for their cash cow over the next 40 years, their plan is not going to happen here. Everybody remembers Purple here over there as well. If you think the rep patch is over for Star Wars, this goes on talking about, like, you know, the Solo movie, which is a disaster. Turns out it was a disaster. Shocking there. And then it says that Disney is bracing themselves for the Han Solo.
Written pre-Solo. That's so weird.
Pre-Solo too. So, like I said, they were worried about all that before The Last Jedi controversy. Now they're essentially writing off Solo, the lead act. Like I said, they buried Aiden Ehrenreich, saying that he couldn't act. Keep in mind, they were saying this like 6.5 years ago. Then he ended up being a part of the crew that won an Oscar for Oppenheimer just earlier this year. So much for he can't act. The whole movie is his fault. That whole narrative didn't work out very well for him. But and then of course, Phil Miller and Chris Lord had left the project after clashing with Kathleen Kennedy, 2018, by the way. If The Force Awakens was the honeymoon for the franchise, 2018 may be the divorce papers are drawn. The damage has already been done. The fans are angry, and the next project looks to tap to a train wreck months before its release. And if there's anything that will drive audiences to see Star Wars Episode 9, in 2019, but at this rate, the Star Wars is a boxer that's on the ropes. It isn't done yet, but a couple more punches, it won't be able to recover. 2018, and now
here we are today. We are officially, like, that's what's so I love. That's why I had to like interject, because I'm listening to your entire post, and it's pre-Solo. It's literally the same like issues that have carried us all the way through, and that's sort of like what I was saying, where like, if Star Wars wasn't already dead, this was the thing that would kill it. And because it's already dead, this is like beyond defiling corpses. Like, this is like where they're going Hamas on like on the Star Wars brand at this point.
And the whole point of me reading that is that I was just pointing out that a smart person could have seen that they were in trouble 6.5 years ago. Like a smart person could see like, hey, look, things aren't really stacking up very well for the future. How can we right this ship so that we can keep this afloat? Because as bad as The Last Jedi was, Star Wars was still salvageable at that point. If they would have like made some changes and some adjustments there, they could have pulled themselves out of it at that point. All they've done over the course of the last 6.5 years is double and triple down and piss off even more fans up to this point. Because even The Last Jedi was like a bad movie, but compared to what we're about to talk about now, nothing in that film was egregiously bad to the point of what we're seeing with modern Star Wars at this point.
All right, so we got to pull the Band-Aid off, guys. We keep dancing around it. Just so you know, you can now make babies with the Force at will. There's one little catch, one teeny tiny little catch that, you know, a lot of people kind of told, a lot of people told me it was never, ever going to happen. It was totally, they wouldn't do this to Star Wars. They weren't going to princess up Star Wars, but
stop trying to disprove Sider's theories. They're always right.
Right. One way or another, I'm always right. So we're not going to play the audio. So we'll just take a look at this. So a musical number. There are now Broadway musical numbers in Star Wars. What? Come on, Elon. Stop doing that.
I know. Come on.
So
help us out.
As you can see, they're doing this. So the musical notes are there for a reason. They are singing the power of one.
The power of one.
The power of two. The power of many. Again, like this is a Broadway thing. I promise you. So I come from stage acting. I recognize this. I don't know what show it's from, but they have ripped it one for one from an actual stage show.
Put it to you this way: the lesbians who are in charge of the writing room has pretty much written their witch coven into the show, and this is quite literally what they did.
Well, that's what I was about to say. So Leslie Headland, A, yes, she's like into the occult, but B, Cider, to your point about, I'm not dissuading your point. I just wanted to get to Cider's. Like to your point, Cider, like you're saying, oh, this feels like a stage production. Leslie Headland, the thing that caught like Kathleen Kennedy's attention to give Headland this project was a stage play based on her own terrible relationship with her sister. Like you are seeing all the threads, pun intended, throughout this entire series. Like it's all so very self-inserty, so just very obvious. Like it's bad is pretty much the summary I can give of it.
So what the gist of, right, is that this is a ceremony that's happened after the children are born. You have the children right here. These are the children right here. But basically, this is the effort that it takes in order to do this. You have to channel their power together. They have to make sure that they're applying it during some type of celestial eclipse that involves a ringed moon of some sort. Because it's space, guys. It can't just be a regular old rocket space. But, they do the power of many, the power of two. These two that are leading it, the spiked head one and this gal that's doing the spirit gun to the sky thing, these two are the ones that created the twins here that are on their knees accepting the power of many or whatever. And so what happened here is that the black one, she says, I conceived them, and the white one says, I gave them life. And so these are witches, by the way. These are not Jedi. These are not Sith. These are completely divorced from this whole light dark split.
Well,
this isn't Star Wars. Like this is just a different show at this point.
Well, like okay,
it's Rebel Moon.
it is Rebel Moon. I love. Yes, again, it is. So yeah, just quick recap for my own thoughts. Cider already did a good job, but I have it like there, and it's how I will get to my next point. But this episode of The Acolyte is basically the origin story for Amanda Stenberg's characters, both of the lesbian space twins, right? And it turns out that their parents are part of a random space witch coven, which A, doesn't feel like Star Wars, to the point, like you just saw that like weird ritual Broadway dance they were doing. Here's how little Star Wars this entire moment feels. After they do their weird little like chanting, that black lady, Jodie Turner-Smith, who played the race-swapped Anne Boleyn, she starts giving the speech about like, yes, sisters, we're gathered, the ritual starts, they hate our power, they want to control it. And while she's talking, you hear in like the distance, a generic like, like a witch cackle. And I'm like, are you kidding me here?
Yep.
And keep in mind, these aren't even Night Sisters. We have witches in Star Wars that have been established that the fandom is generally okay with. And they said, nope, we have to make our own original like witch coven and with their own original powers. And it has nothing to do with what George Lucas or any of you idiots made. So what happens is we learn that through just manipulation of the Force, Jodie Turner-Smith was able to implant embryos. Well, not even implant, but like bring to life like gestated, ready to develop embryos inside of the other witch with the Zabrak witch, the white with the white face and the horns and stuff. So what this episode basically did was confirm that life can be born from the Force, and these witches were able to do it, whether easily or not. They were able to do it, and they did it to the extent where they were able to make two full-on twins in the form of May and Osha. Now, like Nerdigan said, lesbian space witches making babies. That's not Star Wars. What more do we have to say here? And, you know, to throw the bone to what I'm sure all the rest of us are thinking, this is just more of that, I guess is the right term, like transhumanist propaganda, where it's like everybody can get pregnant. It doesn't matter. We can do.
No, the transhumanism is more the robot and humanity mixing up. What am I? But Leslie just brought this up, and a few people brought this up in the chat. Yeah, I don't think that those were like fake witch chants that they were doing on the show, because clearly Filoni's wife is obviously in some kind of witch coven. Like I said, this is something that I've noticed and I've talked about here in the last like few years now. It's like people think that when they're watching like these occult rituals on these television shows, that they're just saying like all these mumbo jumbo words. Like, no, these people are now putting legit occult stuff into television shows, and I guess hoping or maybe thinking that the people watching at home are just going to gloss over, be like, oh, this can't actually be real. But we mentioned this with what was it, Doctor Strange 2, when that movie came out a couple of years ago. There were a lot of people. Come on, it's not just Christian like talk here. I mean, these were secular people that were all noticing like, wow, there was a lot of like demonic stuff in the was it the Doctor Strange 2 stuff, because they knew about the occult. They were realizing, oh wait, this is like actual like occult stuff. This is just like, Hollywood hocus pocus that's going on here.
There's Oscar and award shows with the weird gay guy and Taylor Swift and her glowy balls.
Yeah, right. And it was like I said, what was my popular saying here on this program? It's like, once is a coincidence, like twice is a pattern, three times is an agenda. And I mean, you don't have to like go too far to understand exactly like what's going on here. So that's just one aspect of it. The whole thing of we're now just making lesbian force babies because this is how far we're trying to remove men like from society. It's like, I guess they told us that, hey, the Force is female now, right? So it's like, we don't even need men for creation anymore. This is how much we're just going to divorce completely from reality.
I didn't even think about that point. Like, the Force is female, so we don't even need men for birth. Because I was about to. I saw how the Force was female applied in this episode, but I didn't even think of that. That's a really that's a good connection.
It's Leslie Headland. Like I said in the video, it's Leslie Headland's fetish of being able to reproduce with her wife without a man.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find that a lot of man-hater lesbians have this fantasy that they can use their bone marrow to impregnate one another.
And you know that it's the irony of this, the glaring irony of this is that the only way that they can have their worldview become reality is through the lens of science fiction.
And where they're the evil witches that are literally evoking devil imagery and burning to death for it, by the way. But I do want to bring your attention, guys, to this. Now, as we know, Star Wars theory is pretty practiced in Star Wars. It's kind of his thing. It's in the name. So he had this to say about it after watching this latest episode. And he says, Palpatine had such a hard time cloning Force sensitives until Moff Gideon. With all his power, knowledge of the Force, and his unlimited resources, as well as the inability to create life, and Force-sensitive life, mind you, which is even more impossible. The Sith Jedi Kaminoans, Mother Talzin, the Witches of Dathomir, Darth Plagueis, Anakin, and the Empire itself could do it. Random witches pulling a couple of threads of the Force equals 2 consecutive Force-sensitive children. So powerful, by the way, that the Jedi of the time sense it across the galaxy and race to take power of it. Again, as he says, at what point can we just say WTF?
So this is what I wanted to jump off of in terms of erasing males, replacing males in this boys brand and stuff, because to me this is where the biggest problem with this for me comes from. Like Jacob said, it's science fiction. They always try to do this, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. In doing this in Star Wars, what happens is we've all seen episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. We all know that there's that scene where Emperor Palpatine talks to Anakin about the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise and how it was so rare and so insane for him to have been able to create life that it was a legend. Like, that's the entire point that he's telling Anakin, is that this power was so rare, but, you know, they said it couldn't be done, but Sidious did it. Now, Mitch Ryan brings up that there is a novel that explored all of this, and he's right. It is a pre-Disney 2008 novel titled Darth Plagueis. And so it's non-canon, but I bring it up. I'm going to bring it up for a reason, and it'll all link back together. So in that book, the entire book is concerned with Darth Plagueis' search for immortality. And in the book, it is straight up confirmed that at one point, the ability to like bring life has never been done when Plagueis is around. Plagueis, like, nobody has been able to do it. It is legend. It is, you know, it's impossible. That's what everybody thinks. So he dedicates himself to like a decade, 2 decades worth of researching things. He didn't go see, you know, people had done it before. Let me learn their techniques. He went, what do midichlorians do? How does the Force do this? Like, he did experiments. He did all this. And then eventually he went, what if I just try? And he put his like power out into the universe, and then nothing happened. Until 9 years later, he met a 9-year-old boy named Anakin Skywalker, which the implication and the confirmation in that book was Darth Plagueis, because he tried to make life, he made life, but it wasn't a Sith-like hero for like that he wanted, but the Force decided to make it the guy who would bring balance. It was Anakin. Now, that novel isn't canon anymore. I will admit that. Obviously, it's in Legends. But what is still canon is that Darth Plagueis was able to, at some point, manipulate the power of life. Why I bring up that non-canon thing here is because what you are seeing now with this revelation that long before Plagueis even existed, you had 2 random
hundreds of years, though.
Hundreds of years, right?
Right.
Like,
so this would mean that what Plagueis did was that he stole from these witches. Is what Leslie Headland has now illustrated. Again, we don't want Plagueis to be the good guy. Don't get me wrong on this one. His name is Plagueis, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
But when you go saying that, like, the most important Force activity to ever happen in the history of the knowledge of the Force itself is now commonplace and easily replicatable once you know the secret 11 secret herbs and spices you need to make a Sith baby, it's just, what's the point of it anymore?